Hi, I'm Lynn. Welcome to the Stitch TV show.
And I'm Pam. We're happy you're joining us today. The Stitch is an online quilting talk show, the perfect soundtrack for your sewing room. Join us, please,
Yes,
as we chat
exactly.
about current topics in the quilting world, techniques to improve your own projects, and fun stories about our quilts.
Our episodes come out twice a month, complimentary virtual sew-ins and podcasts, and you can learn more about us at thestitchtvshow.com.
Today, we are accompanied by the quilt I made for our fabric challenge. We're going to talk about my design process and what you need to know about sewing machine needles. So, Lynn, did you see the big news?
I did see the big news, and the big news that we're talking about is the Pantone Color of the Year 2017.
We have to retire blush and baby pants.
I am so with that. It's not even funny. I remember us talking about it back last year when that came out, and I didn't like those colors. I didn't use anything this past year with those colors, so I failed in the...
So you were against the baby colors, and now the baby lobby.
The baby lobby didn't care. We've already established that.
True. Nerds to the baby lobby.
Exactly. So, but this year it's called Greenery, and it's
green.
It's green. Okay, it's green. I pulled this from my stash, but I think it's more chartreusey than the real color.
Yeah, that's too bright. It's more of a softer green.
Yes, it is. I don't think I had a softer green.
I have it. It's already in a quilt that I'm working on. It's the green in my Bonnie Hunter mystery for En Provence.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a color that I'll work with a lot more.
I think it's a color I already have worked with.
Yeah,
It's like, okay,
not
cool.
a surprise. And yeah, but I do like it better this year, and it goes with so much more. Like I don't think that I really make a lot of bright quilts, and that blush and whatever baby blue.
I forget what the actual names were.
I do too. They were weak compared to brighter colors, and so
yeah, I tend to work with more jewel tones than pastels as well.
Yeah, so I think that's why I kind of ignored them and went, thanks, Pantone. No.
Thanks for nothing.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't help this year at all.
Eh.
So, but this new color I'm going to like. I think I'm going to, maybe more like this, like that color.
A little bit. That's a little
bit. Okay, none of the colors we have you like. But that's
I like them fine, but they are not the Pantone color.
Yeah.
These have too much
put
yellow
a
in them.
link to where the Pantone color is.
Yes, for sure.
This, yes. So, but I think it's a good color this year. I think it's good. They said it represented hope in the description of the Pantone color, that this greenery will represent hope for 2017. So that's good. It's a good thing to have hope. Hope's a good thing to have. So
They're like 8 years behind if you're going against presidential elections in the U.S., though. Like, that was the theme 8 years ago, Pantone was. I mean, I get...
They're just catching up.
No, I hear like that giant color council that does stuff in secret and dictates all the color trends. Maybe they only meet every 4 years.
Oh, I don't know. No, I think they have to meet every year.
Oh, how will we know they're a secret?
They are secret. It's like a secret society. They have the Brad Metzer show about that stuff. The guy who does the Brad Metzer, he does all the, who killed Jesse James? Did he really die? He did the thing on, I am not crazy. No, part of those production staff saying I'm not. You've never seen this?
The crazy part.
The crazy part. Anyway.
No, I don't buy into conspiracy theories too much.
I'm totally a conspiracy theorist. It is so real.
Elvis is living in the woods. Exactly. Ooh, in one popular novel, he's a vampire.
Yeah, I saw the movie where Abe Lincoln's a vampire. Come on, vampire killer.
He's not a vampire, he's a vampire killer.
That's what I said, vampire killer.
No, you said where he was a vampire.
Killer. I missed. Sorry, it was vampire killer.
That's a big difference.
It is. You're right. So, instead of us going down that road of where we can talk pop culture way too much.
Speaking of pop culture.
We are going to talk about the quilt behind us. Now, let's remind everybody what this quilt is, though, because we decided that we were going to do a challenge a couple months ago.
Lynn.
Me. I said, hey, we're out shopping together. We find some fat quarters. I'm like, we haven't done a challenge in a while. We should do a challenge. And she said yes. That was her fault.
I think I was like, okay.
And so we bought these 12 fat quarters, and then we bought some cherry wood fabric in teal and oranges. There were three oranges and a red was the cherry wood fabric. And we said, okay, we're going to each make a quilt and then we'll surprise each other. And by the way, we did tape showing each other the quilt at our guild meeting. So we'll have to edit that and put that up. But
assuming the sound is okay.
I don't think we can put music over that and you can just see our faces if the sound sucks. We got a musician on staff. Anyway, so we decided to do this, and this is your design from the challenge quilt.
My design.
So
it is called the Nope quilt.
The Nope. Nope.
Nope. So when we got the fat quarter bundles, I was like, well, there's a lot of crazy prints here.
I know. I chose the fat quarter bundle.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to just need a solid to go with this and calm all this down. So I thought about it for a while, and probably about 2, maybe 3 years ago at QuiltCon, there were a lot of quilts and swaps going on around the F word, where people would make different F word blocks and swap them and make their own quilts. And I totally respect and understand that impulse. Not a quilt that I could hang in my house, and certainly not one that I would ever
give to someone.
Yeah, like, hey. But I thought,
we're not in the Italian mafia, so I'm just saying.
Welcome to No Context Theater.
No,
what is that?
Like the FU quilt or something, or I relate that to the Italian mafia. I watched a lot of Godfather. Anyway, go ahead. I don't think that's odd.
I think, yes, it is odd. No, leave a comment if you think that is odd or not think it's odd.
No, anyway. So you made this.
So to me, the G-rated version, or the version that I know my kids are into.
Right.
Nope. Like, nope, not going to do it. Nope. Also, in the card game Exploding Kittens, there are...
Which I haven't played yet.
Oh, it's fun. There's some nope cards where someone can do an action, or require you to do an action based on the card they lay down, and you can play a nope card. Like, nope, not going to do that. So I had that swirling in my head. And then really thought, okay, well, I don't, to me, I was like, oh, well, I don't want to cut up the cherry wood fabric. That's cherry wood fabric. I cut it up.
Cherry wood fabric is nice, man. If you've never worked with cherry wood fabric, it's...
So I took the teal piece of cherry wood fabric and was like, let me just leave as big a piece as I can whole. And then, gosh darn it, I'll have to do something interesting on the quilting, or it's just a big old piece of fabric. So I'm like, okay, if I have a center panel and I want the word nope, then I thought, well, could I piece the word nope, or how do I want to put the feeling of nope in here? And I ultimately decided on applique which
is so not her jam.
It is.
Well, it's not, because it's my jam. But you're not it's not your favorite thing.
Except all the quilts that I've done that I really love have applique in them, because I know it takes time and you have to do it right.
It does take time. You do have to do it.
You cannot fake it till you make it with applique and have it turn out great. So
it's true.
I had this idea of also combined with the idea of a spa quilt, where you put this quilt on you and everyone in your house should know not to bother you when you're under this quilt. Particularly if it says the word nope on it. Like, no, I'm not dealing with your nonsense today. Children, pets, laundry, dishes. Like, no, get out of here. Nope. So this all kind of came together.
So that was your thought process.
It was like, I need the word nope in it, and I want a big piece of teal that's not cut up. Okay. And so then I just went to EQ7 and just started adding borders and thinking, okay, we're working with 12 fat quarters. It's not like there's a lot of yardage. So I'm like, it's got to be smaller pieces. So I cannot just do like one big old hogging border. So I ended up building around the center panel.
Which, by the way, I love this border.
The diamond border. Which, EQ7 will totally slap that border on a quilt for you, but not tell you how to make it.
That's
a lot,
true.
EQ7.
That's true.
So
you got to figure that stuff out yourself.
Yeah, and like the construction of it, I could figure out, but the actual sizes to cut things was like, ooh, I don't know about that. So I had to go and figure out.
Now, do you test stuff? Like, do you make a test block or something out of other fabric?
No, that's time that I could spend actually making a thing instead of testing a thing.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going for a practice drive. I'm going to get in the car and just start going. We're going to get there.
That is my gut, but I've gotten to where now I'm doing a little bit more because some of the things I'm doing are more complicated. So I'll do a practice to make sure especially if I'm trying to figure something out, make sure I'm right and not cut into my fabric I want to use, cut into scrap fabrics.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead.
So I had to be respectful of the fact that the fabric I wanted to cut for the center, technically the biggest you could get would be 40-ish inches wide and however tall you wanted it to be. And I thought, well, no, if I want to save fabric, I want to cut the height of it across, like with the fabric. So I figured the max I want to go is cut a piece 38.5 because, sometimes you buy a fabric and it's got a weird selvage and you want to save the selvage or you never know.
Yeah, it's true.
How wide actual fabric will be.
And sometimes the selvages can be really wide now because everybody's like, let's design the selvage, which I like.
But I don't do selvage stuff, so it's not as material to me. And do what with it?
I
shove it in a jar.
I collect it. That's it. Yeah.
Oh well.
I don't know what to do with it yet.
So I thought if the center panel's 40 or 38 inches tall, I want to get to where this diamond and diamond border can be some multiple of 5 inches, which means I needed a 1-inch border here. So then, math kicked in. There's a lot of math that happened.
There's math in mine.
A lot of math. So I figured out, thanks to the Pythagorean theorem.
Wow, that's like serious math. That's not like
That's
playing
geometry.
Around. There you go.
Yeah, where
in
a right triangle, the sum of the squares of the two sides is equal to the sum of the square of the hypotenuse. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Also, that's 7th grade math for my son. Well, I think he's in 8th and 9th grade math now, but anyway. Okay. So if you cut a 4-inch square and you add your seam allowance, then it's a 3.5-inch square finished. And then on the diagonal, which is this up and down part, that's 5 inches.
Ta-da-da!
Ta-da! So that was the most stressful part. And then I thought, well, what if your seam allowance isn't exactly? And then I'm like, wait, it's on the bias. You can totally stretch it if you need to. Yay, bias.
Yay, bias.
Yeah,
Not everybody says yay, bias.
No, in this case, it was helpful. Although I was very impressed with myself that it just worked out. And math happened. And so the pattern for this is available. You all are welcome to make your own version. And I'm making a second version that's actually got a print fabric here in the middle, so you can see what that looks like too. And what I figured out is it was easier to write the pattern as if people didn't have these different values of oranges. So the pattern's written so it's just one solid setting fabric. That would be the word nope and then this fabric here. But I wanted to do a little gradient effect since we had those colors available. And so that was maddening to lay out all these pieces on the cutting table and keep the cats from running over them.
And keep it in order and all that kind of stuff.
And there may be one orange that's mixed up. And then I thought, I don't care.
Nope. Don't care.
Yeah. And then it was just a matter of well, what other borders can I add to make it a good size? So I want it to be a couch-sized quilt. So you have the vision in your mind of you sitting on the couch saying nope to things. Okay. So it finishes about 60
I need this
by
quilt
70.
Just in my life.
Yeah.
Nope.
And
can you do that? Nope.
And then I thought it'd be even funnier. People come up and you're like, no, can you not see nope? I'm like, but can you? Hence the I cannot on the back. Because if they're children,
begging,
husbands,
they
partners. Yeah, but I really need
I cannot.
Child, you know how to operate the microwave. Go make yourself some macaroni and cheese, for crying out loud. No, you cannot open up all the advent calendar and eat all the chocolate.
There is not a macaroni and cheese tragedy so big that I need to get off the couch and go make it.
So for extra emphasis, I put the applique on the back. So when you look at the quilt, when it's hanging upright, the I cannot is actually upside down. But when you flip it over to re-emphasize the nope point, then ta-da, you cannot. I cannot deal with your nonsense. I cannot do the dishes. I cannot do the laundry because
I cannot do the laundry because I just don't got skills. Laundry,
it's buttons.
I just don't. No, I can do the washing and the drying. It's the folding that it's where we get messed up in this house.
You need the little folder thing.
I need the Sheldon folder thing.
Yeah.
No, I can fold. I just don't like it, so it doesn't get done.
No, but when I do laundry, once a week, and it's a big production because it's like 6 loads.
Once every 3
And
weeks, maybe.
No, we do it once a week, and then I save some really good TV show, and I fold it, and everything gets laid out on the couch in a particular spot, and I get to watch the one show that I want to watch while I'm doing that.
Oh, okay. So it's your reward for folding. I need to.
Well, it's not a reward. It's
Here's
like
the deal. It'll take care of a TV show for me because I do it every 3 weeks. It'll be like a movie.
It's like 42 minutes of folding laundry for 6 loads. I mean, that's pretty much the average.
We'll have to have a long movie.
Hamilton.
No, that's music. If I'm watching something, I can't watch Hamilton. It's not out. I mean, you could probably watch it illegally on YouTube, but somebody went in there and filmed, and
what about the PBS special about the making of Hamilton?
Oh, it was good. That was really good. I watched it. It was
Did
very
you save
good.
it?
Did I save it? I think I did. I don't know.
Nope.
Nope. Nope. You know what I'm impressed about this quilt, though? Because Pam gets on to me all the time.
Achievable quilting.
I quilt a lot. Like, I enjoy quilting, and I'm, like, all about the pattern on the quilting and stuff. There is a lot of quilting going on here.
Yeah, well, that was the compromise I had to make with doing a solid fabric in the middle. Is like, well, now I can't just phone it in on the quilting.
You got all this negative
Well,
space.
I felt like I couldn't, because if this is going to be a pattern, I want to showcase what's possible. Now,
Right.
in the other version, it's totally just going to be a meander in the center because it's a print fabric.
Well, that's
and
true.
You're not going to notice as much. But for here, I got out 3 different sizes of dinner plates.
I love this.
And I started tracing the nope symbol. So I started with the big ones and did the outer circle, and then I traced the inner circle, and then I just did like a 1-inch strip in here. And I was torn between pebbling or matchstick quilting. And every time I do pebbling, I'm like, I'm never doing this again. It's horrible.
I
It
think
uses
that
so
every
much
time I
thread.
do it
It's
too.
ridiculous.
Like, whose idea was to
And then
do
I think,
this?
well,
Dang it,
matchstick
it was
quilting's
mine.
even worse.
Matchstick's hard.
Matchstick's hard. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I did pebbling.
You did. It looks great. But I like that. And I'm big on this too. Like, every time I have a lot of borders, I think you do something different in each border. And so I just think that gives you more interest in your borders. And she did that. She did something different in the diamond border, and then she did
then I
some
got
straight
tired.
line, and then she did some big
bubbles,
big bubbles in the bottom one.
Yeah.
But it looks great. I love it. I think it's a great quilt. I wouldn't have imagined it. Of course, mine's totally different. You'll see that next episode. So when you're designing something in your design process, do you do everything in stages? Like, when you're designing, do you cut everything first and then?
Well, yes.
Yes, you cut everything first before you start sewing?
Well, because I planned it in EQ7, so I knew what it was going to be. I knew what the borders were. I knew, well, this is a 1-inch border. And, to make the proportions work, I didn't want more than a 10-inch width of any fabric. And I took the fat quarters and divided them kind of into warms and cools. They didn't exactly align by that, but coolish versus warmish.
They were pretty
so
pattern heavy, I guess.
Yeah, the instructions are written so that you've got a cool border, and then you've got big warm squares and small cool squares, and then you've got another cool border in between the one of the background, and then you finish with a warm border. And so the instructions are written so, like, all right, stack your 6 fat quarters and cut X number of this size strip for the border, and then you repeat that.
So in your design process, you had that figured out before you went to the, wow, that's good. Do you take breaks, or how do you break it down? Like, do you take breaks when you're designing in your design process? Do you take breaks? Do you, okay, I've got the EQ7 done, I need to walk away from it to make sure I like it, or you just go for it?
Well, normally it's based on the amount of time that I have to work in. Since I work full time and family and all that stuff, it was naturally a break after I designed an EQ7. I'm like, okay, well, now I'm going to go double check and think through and make sure the math works, that I can get all the fabric I need out of this set of fat quarters. Right. So yes, in that way. And doing everything else, because most of the borders are piece strips, I just pieced all the strips together in one go. So I had a big old 300-inch long. It was a lot of fun for the cats, by the way. So I pieced all the strips together at one time.
Right, okay.
And the diamond border took a little longer. I think that took about 2 days total, or 2 different sewing sessions. Yeah, because that one was keeping track of a lot more color gradient.
2 different sewing sessions. Wait till we talk about mine.
You got yours done in a week?
I did, but it was...
Honestly, the most challenging part, aside from the diamond border, was getting the font right for the word nope. So I cannot, I mean, that's just simple sans serif font.
Yeah.
The nope, I had a very specific image of what I wanted that to look like, and that font does not exist yet. No, I doubt I would design font. I knew, like, I wanted the N to have a nice bubble. I want it to be kind of playful in its sentiment. I went through this marketing boot camp last year, and we had a whole half day on font selection. So all that was in my head.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted, like,
I like the font.
playful yet, like, emphatic.
I like the font.
In the nicest possible way. Nope.
And by the way, we didn't have, this is her back,
the
backing. That wasn't a part of the challenge.
And I happened to have a solid that matched this particular cherry wood fabric for the binding. So the backing and the binding, we were allowed to add whatever fabric we wanted. And I just love the colors in the backing. And I thought it matched everything. Yeah.
Oh, it's absolutely perfect. That looks like a cave. Is it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I think it's great. So it's available. So how hard is it? Like if you're starting from scratch and you want to do this quilt, is it difficult?
Very easy. Because a lot of it, the hardest piecing is the diamond border, but once you break that down, it's still just squares and some little tiny setting triangles. It's not hard. It's like a 1.5 out of 3.
Oh, cool. Yeah. But it looks much more complicated.
But wait, there's more.
But wow, yes. Please tell us more.
So there's a lot of times you're out in the world and you got to say no, and it's inconvenient to take a giant quilt with you. So we have the pocket nope. And so this is included in the pattern as well, how to do this little zipper. And so my thinking was, like, you put a nice cookie in here, maybe a nice tiny bottle of airplane liquor where it's appropriate to drink. And you could just lay it out and just have your own little nope picnic. You could add, if you wanted to, elastic bands, and you could put in thread or anything in here that you want. So the basic pattern is just the pocket nope. But I wanted to use the symbol.
I love that you chose this fabric because that was my favorite fabric of all.
I did love it too.
Because it has sewing needles in it.
I did notice that.
I thought it was cool.
So yes, that's the pocket nope is available as well.
Well, so did you, I mean, I know we both complain about the challenge and stuff, but did you enjoy it? Did you like the challenge of?
I'm happy with the quilt.
Yeah.
I totally complained the entire time I was quilting.
I think that's part of like quilting. Like you're like, this is a great idea. Whose stupid idea was this?
This is going to look awesome
this is gonna look
after
awful.
I'm dead.
Why did I decide to do this?
There's a lot of angsty text to the production staff, like, why did you do this?
I think that's true. The production staff definitely heard it from both sides. So,
yes.
All right. Well, let's take a break.
Okay. We're going to show you guys some closer up pictures at the challenge quilt. It is fat quarter friendly. The pattern to make your own version is available in our pattern shop now at shop.thestitchtvshow.com. Welcome back. We are now going to make everyone wait on pins and needles.
Oh, really?
JK, LOL. Nope. So, needles.
Needles. They're important.
They are
You have
crucial.
to have them to sew.
And that's a wrap.
And we're done. Thank you for playing. No, we decided to do this topic because, you know, there's always questions about needles and stuff. So you researched machine needles.
Sewing machine needles, yes.
Sewing machine needles.
Yeah.
And I get in trouble for this all the time. I'm bad about remembering to change my needle on my sewing machine.
I can usually tell. When it gets dull, I can hear the thunk, 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 like the needle is hitting the fabric and it's angry at the fabric because the needle is tired and it needs to be a new one. I can hear that. And I can hear that both in the mid-arm and also my regular sewing machine.
Yeah. So how often do you change your needle?
So in theory,
In theory.
It's supposed to be every big project.
How many hours is that, though?
11 trillion? Depends on the
Oh.
project, honestly. I mean,
Yeah.
a Bonnie Hunter mystery is a project, but that lasts a month, 6 weeks.
Well, I think it's of sewing time, not just
Right.
like calendar time. Like how long are you actually sewing?
So
is
I
it 12
do-
hours or whatever?
I do change out a needle that I use for applique or quilting more frequently than one for piecing.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I think I changed my long arm needle. And I can hear when my long arm needle gets tired. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, science.
Science. I knew you'd come with science.
Love science.
Science.
Science. That's how we say it at my house
Science?
for the kids. Science. You got to point your finger.
Oh, and do it like
Science.
that. Okay.
Yes.
It just reminds me of that song in the 80s, but go ahead. That's what's going on.
Oh, yeah, probably. That's always in my
That's
head.
how he said it.
It's always in my head.
All right, because
Okay.
that's what it sounded like.
So, have you ever put your needle in backwards on your sewing machine?
I have on my, no, not on my sewing machine because of the way it goes in. It's curved on one side and flat on the other.
Yeah.
And if you put it in with flat back away from you, then it slides in and it works fine.
Okay.
On my long arm, I don't know why they don't do this on a long arm, but on a long arm, it's round. The top of the shaft is round and there's not a flat back to it.
That's called the shank.
The shank. And you have to remember to put it in the correct way or
Well, do you know
angry.
what the difference is
Very
between
angry.
the two sides?
Clementine is not a happy camper when I put it in wrong.
Do you know why?
It has to do with, I think, and I didn't read the science, but I think it has to do with the way the needle actually has a curve in the back of it.
It's called a scarf.
There you go. It's a scarf. But that curve has to be facing back or it doesn't work right
In a long arm.
in a long arm.
In a regular
Well,
sewing
maybe I'm
machine.
right. Maybe it is. I'll have to go look.
So on my mid-arm
Right.
and on my sewing machine, the scarf goes in the front. And what that does is give a place for the thread to nest.
Maybe this
when it goes through the eye.
Mine too.
So when the needle goes through the fabric, the thread
Yeah.
is nestled in that little trough in the scarf. So it's not creating a bigger hole than it needs to. And that's what helps. Because the eye of the needle is, at the bottom of that scarf.
Maybe I'll have to look. Here's how I put the needle in my long arm. I look at it and I go, okay, it has to be exactly like that, and I change it right then. And then that's not needed as permanent information in my head. I can forget it until the next time I have to change the needle.
So do you know what the groove is?
Well, I don't know. That came out of the 70s, so I'm pretty sure.
It was 60s. Things can be groovy in the 60s.
Oh, that's true. I don't know. The groove made me think of
So the groove is the cut in the back of the
Donna Summer for
shaft
some reason.
that releases the thread into a loop so that the hook or the shuttle, which is in the bottom part of your sewing machine, can pick up the thread.
Yes.
The groove, in fact, is in the heart and also in your needle. That's a 90s reference. Okay, do you know the difference between the different kinds of points?
I should have researched.
There's good points and there's bad points. Sometimes there's no point.
Yeah.
This right here, no point.
Which is sometimes the show, there's no point.
There's no point.
The points are either sharp or they can be blunted, and an embroidery needle is a blunted needle and it's not as sharp.
So many tapers. Look at this picture right here. We will link to the picture that I'm looking at here.
A ballpoint needle,
Right.
any of those.
So a universal needle, which is what most people piece with,
I piece with universal, yeah.
actually has a cutting tip. Yes. So as the needle goes through the fabric, it's actually making little tiny cuts into the fabric, which is how it gets through.
Yeah.
Now, the difference between a jersey or a ballpoint or a knit needle is rounder. So it is engineered such that it will slip between the fibers instead of cutting through them. It's the difference between having a needle go between your fingers or through your finger.
Maybe that's what happened in that class.
Possibly, yeah. So jeans or denim needles or leather needles are the sharpest ones, the pointiest and sharpest. So they have the sharpest taper, and they are definitely geared to like poke the heck out of the fabric. Get in there. Stretch
Well,
needles
you would
are,
break needles.
yeah.
If you were trying to sew leather on
Oh yeah, it
a
would just,
with a rig, you would break
you'll
the
shoot your
needle.
eye out.
You'll shoot your eye out.
Which is also why when your needle is dull and you are going through a seam where there are a lot of layers
Yeah,
at an
yeah, yeah.
intersection, you know, that's why your needle will break because it's not sharp enough to go through there. So when you quilt, what kind of needle is on Clementine?
A long arm needle.
So long arm needles are typically sharps
I think it is
or
a sharp.
universal. So they're meant to kind of cut the fibers.
Yeah, I think it is a sharp.
I have quilted with a universal on my domestic and also an embroidery or even a top stitch needle. Kind of depends on the thread that I'm using. So a top stitch needle can be like a regular universal needle, but it's got a much bigger eye. Because in top stitching, you're typically going through more layers and you're using a thicker thread. So you want a bigger eye so your thread doesn't shred through there.
Right.
There are even fancy metallic needles, which are like a top stitch needle, but there's a Teflon coating in the eye.
Which helps.
That'll help. Yeah, because as we know from my Wendy Butler Burns experience, my crazy old 1980s metallic thread could have used that.
Metallic can be real. That thread can be tough to
yeah.
deal with. Yeah. But we've talked about that before.
We have.
Yeah.
So
I normally use universal.
I do as well for piecing, although.
Now, do you ever use double needle?
Yes.
Those are kind of fun.
When I've used them primarily if I have a wild hair and a bad decision where I'm like, I'm going to make some clothes and it's going to be on a knit. And so the double needle will create like a mock cover stitch, which is on knit garments. The hem typically looks like 2 rows of thread and on the back they're joined together. So double needle's good for that.
Yeah.
I've not used it decoratively.
I have. I've used it just
for
that's
postcards
actually,
and stuff?
Yeah,
or?
for postcards and stuff. That's the only way I've actually ever used it. I don't know. One of the catalog magazines that come through, Nancy's Notion or Keepsake Quilting or whatever the other one is, had a sale on variety of
the width
of double needles. So I bought it. So I have those there. And like you can use a double needle. You have to my machine, I have to let it know how wide and that it's using a double needle kind of thing. Because you can break it really easy if you're doing a decorative stitch.
Or if you leave your 1/4-inch foot on.
You need your wide foot. But you can do decorative stitches with double needles. And they look really cool because it kind of doubles it up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, you have to go slow anytime you're doing that stuff. Because the way it goes through it. But I've gotten some really kind of cool looks and techniques with that. That's the only time I've used it because I don't sew clothes because that looks hard. And stretch fabric looks hard.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's super easy to wear, but it's very intimidating to sew.
Yeah. So I've done that with double needles. So
in terms of the material the needle is made of, have you ever used a titanium needle?
I don't think so.
Do you know why you would?
Because it sounds like James Bond.
No, titanium needles are typically a little stronger than the typical needle. So if you are doing quilting and there's a lot of friction when you're quilting and you're moving fabric around in different directions instead of the normal way for free motion, titanium needle can be helpful if you find there's a lot of flexing and you can't see it because it's going super fast unless
you can feel it.
You can feel it
in the long arm. I think you can feel that flexing if you're moving too fast.
Yeah,
you can. Yeah.
So if you can find a titanium needle in that case. If you find if you're having trouble with your free motion, you may give it a try. I think Class A is one of the brands that makes titanium.
Oh, I've used Class A needles. Mm-hmm. So maybe I have used titanium.
Yeah, and they're like a golder color instead of the normal nickel looking.
It's not something I think I try to get the size and whether it's universal or sharp is what I use universal or sharps most of the time. And I'm looking for the size of the needle. And then
Speaking of sizes.
And size, this is what to me is kind of crazy a little bit. It's hard. I just kind of stick with the size and that's what I'm using for everything.
So sizes. I don't know, my machine,
Can be grumpy.
Bless its heart. Bless its little heart. Yeah, Jan sometimes just gets persnickety. And for whatever reason, she likes a particular brand.
Yeah, you
She
said
likes
that. I
she
was
likes
surprised.
Singer needles. She doesn't like Schmetz. And even
I
for
like
piecing, there will be
Schmetz.
skip stitches if I try and use a Schmetz in there, which is
Really?
odd. Yeah. So I end up typically using a size 14/90 or 90/14.
I think I use
Yeah.
80/12. Sounds right.
Yes, 80/12. So the 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever, 8 to 21 are American sizes, and European sizes go 60 to 130. And there's
We
a
just need to
1-to-1.
all come together on that and say, here's the
No,
size.
everyone can do their own thing, Lynn. Like, they're allowed to drive on the wrong side of the road if they want
The
to.
wrong side of the road. They don't think it's the wrong side of the road. They think it's the right side
I'm
of the
just
road.
saying, we won the Revolutionary War. I think it's the wrong side of the road. Sorry, UK. Love you.
Yeah, but they have established history longer than us. And, just saying, we get to do that here, but we don't get to go over there and go, wow, you're on the wrong side
Well,
of the
no,
road.
if I was there, I would totally respect their laws and
Yeah, well, that's good. 'cause
do it the
you'd
wrong way.
crash. You're trying to, I'm just saying, there could be accidents involved.
Yeah. And then I sometimes wonder, like, wait, which side of the road do Australians drive on? And then I'm like, Australians probably, like the baby lobby, they don't care. They're going to drive down the middle.
No, they drive on the other. They drive like UK. And they do this
Till they get to the middle of the
weird-
country, and then they're like, forget it. We're just going to drive. There's no
well,
roads.
There's no roads, so then there's that. And so does New Zealand drives like UK. Yeah. They drive on. When I was in New
I
Zealand,
got
I
a
was
feeling
doing
the
a
sheep
job.
have a say in that. The sheep are just going to stand wherever, and then
Yeah,
you just got to
they
drive
do.
around the sheep.
So when I was in New Zealand, one of the colleagues that I was working with was going to give me a ride back to the hotel. So it was totally, there was nothing inappropriate about it.
Not that. My face was like, oh, driving in
Right,
another country.
because I didn't want
gives-
to. Oh well,
yeah, it gives me
I'm
anxiety.
telling you, I flew to New Zealand, rented a car, and drove to the hotel. Immediately Skyped my husband in tears, like, I just feel so stupid because I'd been on a 30-hour flight by the time I got to New Zealand, and you're dumb at that point. You cannot think after you've been on flights for that long, and I drove on the other side of the road. And I was trying to read a map and trying to get to the hotel. I'm crying, going. The next day, I took the car back to the hotel and turned it in. I said, I'm not driving in this country. I had to be there for 3 weeks. I did not drive anywhere. Buses and taxis. And so, but that being said, this colleague was going to give me a ride back to the hotel because I wasn't driving in New Zealand. And so I walked to the car. And I had been taking taxis, so you always got in the back. So I walked to the car, and I walked to what I would say is the passenger side. And he looked at me like, what, you driving? I was like, oh, yeah. So when you get in on our driver's side, their passenger side, and there's no steering wheel in front of you, and you're in the driver's side, it's weird. Like, I think the whole time I was like, and he wasn't driving bad. He was just like, I just think there should be a steering wheel right here, and this just feels really odd. It was freaky. I was okay in buses and taxis, but that, ugh.
Well, every time
Now,
I watch...
I've done it since then. It was just that first time was like...
I get the same thing every time I watch Top Gear. I'm like, they're doing it wrong.
They're doing it wrong. Kind of thing. Yeah, kind of deal. Anyway, so back to, I think we should all decide and have one number, this year needle, but that's where we went off.
Or perhaps we could just get used to it.
Because
clearly, the rest of the world's all over the metric system. And we are like,
we're like,
nope.
I'm like, nope. You know what? I think, because I remember when they tried to change. And the biggest, I remember, maybe it was just my family, but the biggest outcry was the recipes and the cooks. And up in arms.
And then do it by weight instead of volume.
They were like, we're not changing our recipes. We're still doing cups and teaspoons and whatever.
And yet we do 1/4-inch seam in quilting. So
yes, we're halfway. We don't know what we're doing.
Anyway, machine.
That's
needles.
machine needles. Well, since I've been hand piecing so much lately, I looked up some stuff about hand needles, which are a little bit different because you want different needles for different types of piecing or just sewing in general.
I want a needle with a big eye so I can thread it.
Well, that would be a tapestry or cross stitch needle,
Perfect.
but they're not very sharp.
I don't care.
So those aren't necessarily the best for hand piecing. You're probably going to use a sharp. That's what most people use for hand piecing kind of stuff.
Now, how long are they?
They come in different widths from size 12 to size 16.
What does that mean?
Well, it's how long and how
Is that
tall
millimeters?
they are. I'm not sure. It doesn't say that.
Science.
I'm sure.
We're getting a nod. I'm like, yeah, that seems legit. It's totally
seems
millimeters.
legit. It totally seems legit.
Wait, 12 millimeters is really small. I don't think that's right.
I don't know. It doesn't say. And this is English company. John James
Look out.
puts out really good hand sewing needles. John James. So
It's
it
right
doesn't
there in the
say-
branding. Finest quality.
Well, yes, but I've used their needles and they are very nice. They're nice needles. And then you have your quilting needles, which are specifically designed for quilting.
And they're also called betweens, right?
They're all called.
So why are they
also
called betweens? Are they between sizes?
Like,
Are
you're
they,
asking me
do they go
questions I
between the
didn't-
thread? These, if anyone knows, please educate us in the comments.
Well, they're shorter.
Yes.
The betweens are shorter because it allows you to rock the needle when you're quilting.
And I believe they're thicker as well.
I don't hand quilt, so I'm not sure.
Well,
I've used them. but
Because
I-
you're going through more layers,
Yeah.
you need a stronger needle.
You do need a stronger needle if you're rocking. Not everybody rocks the needle.
No, some of us
though.
poke.
Stab stitch.
Oh, I guess it's stab stitch. I call it poking stitch.
Now, if you're doing beadwork or that kind of stuff, there's specific beading needles that are really long and very thin,
Mhm.
And fragile. They're not as strength. The beading needles aren't as strong. You can bend those
Fragile.
fragile. You can bend those very easily. But there's also milliner needles.
Yes.
And those are for like decorative type stuff. So if you take a Sue Spargo,
Mhm.
like decorative stitching type of thing, milliner's needle, she'll use a lot.
And I believe milliner's needles, when it's obviously tapered at the point because that's got to get through stuff. But as you get closer to the eye, a milliner's needle is the same width as it gets up to the eye, as opposed to some other needles where the eye is
Right.
bigger.
There are certain stitches like the bullion stitch is
yeah.
a technique where you wrap the thread around the needle and then pull the needle through it. And if you're not using a milliner's needle, you're using a regular sharp, that eye will get caught in the thread that you've wrapped and pulled through, and your bullion knot doesn't look good.
Yeah. In the hand
So
quilting
the-
class I took, we used milliner's needles as well.
milliner's needles are they're really nice too. Then there's others like for Chanel and tapestry and cross stitch, darning needles. I don't do any of that stuff. I do beading, embroidery. I've done embroidery. I don't like the easy threading needles. Do you like the easy threading?
No, they always
needles?
break
They
my thread.
There is a spiral ion needle where you can
Yeah.
loop it in.
We
that
talked
I
about that in
like.
the November virtual
Yeah.
stitch-in.
I like those needles. So, but I don't change my hand needles very often. I think the coolest thing that I have is I bought a needle threader where you put the needle in it and you press a button and it threads the needle for you. And then I have this made by Clover. It's this little case where you can put 10 threaded needles in it. And then when you're ready to sew, you just pull out a needle. And that is very cool. So I like that.
Cool.
Especially, you thread all your needles at a time and then you can just take it and sew and you don't have to worry about, having great light or whatever to thread your needle kind of deal.
Fancy.
It is fancy. It's very fancy.
Very fancy.
Very fancy. So that's what I know about needles. They're important. Now, I use whatever thread's in my machine usually and see if it works through the needle. Do you get into...
So there are some particular, like Superior Threads as a brand, print on their spools, like, hey, we
What
recommend this
needle?
size needle.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because I know, I typically use an Aurifil 50 weight to piece. So in a sewing machine needle, I could use a size 80 and be good. If I were using one of the thicker decorative threads, I'd want to use a 90 or maybe a 100.
Right, because you need a bigger eye.
Yeah, because you need a bigger eye. So
Yeah.
it's kind of try it with the needle that's in there, and if it doesn't work, then probably time to change a needle anyway.
That's what I do. I mean, to me, it's just a trial by error.
So how do
if
you?
it's shredding, I change
So when
the
you
needle.
buy needles, they come in little packages and there's labels like this is a size 90 and here's a whatever majigger. How do you, once you use it, do you put it back in the package or do you keep it in a specially sectioned off marked pin cushion? Like how do you keep track of it once you've taken it out of the package and you've used it?
Okay, after I've used it, because I haven't changed needles very often, I throw that puppy away because it's not any good. Why do I want to keep it around thinking that I may pull it out and use it again? I throw them away.
Even on hand?
Yeah, there are some, in more cross-stitch world, when I was doing a lot of cross-stitch, where the needle became rough because just the acid from your hand or the oils from your hand.
Mine always bent because the heat from my hand would warm it up and then it would
bend as you were doing it.
Yeah.
I just throw those away. I'm like, I get a new one. At that point, it's, I've used it. I'm not going to keep it.
So on my machine, I've got like a little wool strawberry hanging on the side. And so I will keep, there's a knit sewing machine needle. There's a top stitch.
Now those are different.
You know,
yeah,
those
I will
kind of
keep those. I just put them back in the package.
Oh, I probably should. I was like, I
That
can tell
way I
this
know
one's
what
got a
it
yellow
is.
shank. It's knit. This one doesn't have it, but I can tell the eye is bigger.
Yeah. Oh, well, Singer may do that better. I don't know that all. Maybe they do. I don't pay attention to that. Whether the color on the shank or whatever.
Yeah, Singer does for sure. There's some other manufacturers that do, but I don't think ones that are sold in the U.S. because Schmetz on the we'll link to an article.
And some don't.
And it's like Singer. It's the whole shank is colored. And there's one color for size and one color for tip type, universal,
embroidery ball, whatever.
all that stuff. I think on Schmetz, it's just a tinier band. It's not like the whole shank, so it's harder to see.
I don't pay attention to that. I put them back in the package if I'm going to reuse it, and I feel like it's still good. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, believe me.
How do you dispose of old needles?
I think we did a thing on this. I have a bottle. Mm-hmm. It's an old water bottle, and I put any needles in there that are sharp in there, and then I'll just throw that bottle away so that it's not in the trash can, and you're not gonna stick your hand in and get any pins I break or bend or beyond me bending them back. We can still use this. Let me just bend it back.
Yeah, I'm a little fancier.
I know no one else does that.
I have an old lipstick tube.
Oh yeah,
it's a.
I don't think I've ever used an entire tube of lipstick. Seriously, I don't. I know that's bad. It's probably. I don't think I ever have. Because I probably lose it before it's all used up, or two, I just buy a different color, and I don't wear a lot of lipstick anymore.
One of the reasons I married my husband, he's the only person I ever knew that could get through an entire tube of chapstick without losing it, and he would like literally use up chapstick.
Yeah, I don't think I'm not there.
I was like, well, if he's a keeper, chapstick's a keeper. There you go. So.
He won't lose you because he can't lose chapstick. There you go. Right. That's good.
So every year, it is Christmas stocking. I'm like, here's your next year's supply of chapstick. One tube. Ta-da. But I do.
That's a good
so I could be
stuffer.
Fancy at my machine. I have the little fancy lipstick tube.
You are fancy.
And then I transfer it to like an old pill bottle to actually throw it away.
Yeah.
I don't want to throw away my fancy lipstick tube.
The one tube I've used all the lipstick. I don't think I ever have. Seriously. I've lost more of them. And here's a really bad thing that I do. Like when my purse gets full, I just get a new purse. I don't necessarily clean out everything. So if you went back and looked at all old purses, you could probably find lipstick and old chapstick and maybe some gum from. I know. No, the gum's not there because the Slookies clean me out of that. They have still not convinced themselves that they don't like cinnamon gum. They try it every time and then go, "This is gross, Mom." I'm like, "You tried it last time and thought it was gross. Maybe just leave it in my purse." They do not believe that's true. No. No. Josie tries it every time. And then looks disgusted about it. Like, it's your fault. Except for now I don't have any cinnamon gum and I'm not happy with you.
Oh, well.
Oh, well.
So let us know in the comments your favorite sewing machine needle or hand needle and any pitfalls that we should avoid. And that's all we have for this episode. Today's show could not happen without 77 Peaches Enterprises, your one-stop shop for creative support. We'd like to thank 77 Peaches, Big Think Productions, Cotton Art Studio, and Hip to Be a Square for being part of The Stitch. You can find the links to their sites on our show site, thestitchtvshow.com. If you're interested in sponsoring the show, please email us at info@thestitchtvshow.com.
That's all we've got for this episode. If you've enjoyed the show, please like us on YouTube, share your thoughts on the episode on this topic on Facebook, Instagram, Google Hangout, and check us out on www.thestitchtvshow.com.
The next virtual Stitch-In is Friday, January 13th at 7 p.m. Eastern, broadcast on our channel here on YouTube and Google+. My podcast, Hip to Be a Square, will be out Fridays at hiptobeasquarepodcast.com or on iTunes or Google Play.
You can email us with questions, comments at info@thestitchtvshow.com. And you can buy our patterns at shop.thestitchtvshow.com.
Those details and more can be found on our website, stitchtvshow.com. Tune in next time for more quilting chat with friends.